Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I am talking about Kong Skull Island. And this was an excellent movie. I just got out of it about 10-20 minutes ago, and I really very much enjoyed it. I saw it with everybody in my family except my wife Leanne, so I brought all my children. So my oldest son Xavier was home from college, and all the way down. I have 4 children, and we all saw it. So one, I can tell you it is an excellent family film. It's very nice to be able to bring, you can bring everybody, but I wouldn't bring children under 8 years old, right? So yeah, just from a perspective of who should see this movie and who should not, I would definitely give you that advice, and that it's probably not a good idea to bring any children under 8 years old. There is an incredible amount of violence in the film. And I think there's 1 or 2 swear words in there. I really, really, really like this movie a lot. I would give it 5 out of 5 stars, and I think it's absolutely worth full ticket price, and I would see it on the big screen. Now at this point, spoilers all over this review from here on. So the movie is really about Kong Skull. So it was appropriately titled Kong Skull Island. So it really is about Kong's home island, and it's really done in an excellent manner. So John Goodman, his character, he is a soldier who was on a ship that crash landed on Kong's island, and it was torn apart by large creatures that live on Kong's island. There are a bunch of scientists, and so John Goodman's character, he is this old soldier who witnessed the massive creatures that live on this island, and he hired a team of scientists to determine, and the reason why he hired a team of scientists was he wanted to know why these 300 feet tall creatures lived on this island and didn't live anywhere else on the earth. And the way they explained this in the movie was really interesting. I thought it was really cool explanation. It really worked. I thought it was great. And that was the hollow Earth theory. So the way they describe the hollow Earth theory is not that the Earth is hollow, but there are points on the Earth that are hollow. There's these huge areas that things can live on beneath the ground. And then what Kong Skull Island is a very cool term, was an emergence point. It was a point where creatures would emerge out of the ground and then live on Skull Island, right? Now, one of the things that's cool is Kong, and one of the reasons why it's called Skull Island is when viewed from above, from plane pictures, it looks like a skull, right? So really, really neat, very good setup. And so the beginning of the movie is John Goodman getting clearance from a government person in the so this movie takes place, the entire movie takes place in the 70s, right? There's a flashback scene that goes back a little earlier than that. I'll talk about it in a minute. But this movie takes place, it's a period piece in the 1970s. And so it takes place in 1973 on Kong Skull Island. John Goodman's expeditionary team has gotten funding from the government, gotten a military escort from the government, and now are bringing scientists and military forces onto Kong Skull Island. And and the military forces, and John Goodman's character tells everybody, hey, we're going to use these seismic charges, and we're going to spin these seismic charges down, and we're going to map the we're going to map what is here on the ground. We're going to map the island itself, right? Well, these seismic charges are bombs, and really they were not seismic charges at all. It had nothing to do with mapping. John Goodman is actually flushing out these massive creatures. And the reason why is he wants to prove to himself that what he saw that day when his ship was attacked and he survived isn't real. So he already knows. Actually, he wants to prove it to the rest of the world. He already knows that there are creatures that are 300 feet tall and that, they're incredibly deadly, and, this is real. So he wants to prove it to the rest of the world. So he's brought an entire, essentially probably about 50 U.S. soldiers all who have come straight from action in Vietnam. So the movie does a really good job of using the period of time that the movie is set in to cause conflict. So John Goodman gathers the following people. He gathers a military force to protect his team. He gathers a group of scientists to validate and document what they see. He gathers a wartime he gathers a wartime photographer, and actually it's an anti-war photographer. That's Brie Larson's character. Okay. He also brings forward a guide, like someone who understands how to survive on remote islands and in incredibly dangerous areas, and that is Tom Hiddleston's character. And so all of these characters are in the mix, right? And so Brie Larson. So the real conflict comes from Brie Larson's character, who is an anti-war photographer trying to show the travesties of war, and then Samuel Jackson's character, who is the head of these 50 U.S. Actually, it looks like it was a collection of Army, and well, I guess Army people have helicopters, so I think it was all Army unit, right? So at that point, you have Samuel Jackson's character. He is the lead, the military lead, right? So everybody's on this island. They all get onto Kong Skull Island, and John Goodman's point is to document King Kong, that there is this 300-foot creature living here, and then, if possible, if they're not successful, if they're not overly successful, just bring back pictures. But if they're incredibly successful, bring back Kong, right? So once they get on there, Samuel Jackson's character realizes real quick that John Goodman's character has lied to them, and the soldier who was on the island, whose ship had crashed on the island, and had witnessed these gigantic creatures. So John Goodman's character, is talking with Samuel L. Jackson's character, the military lead, and then he says, "Hey, I'm insisting that you tell me right now exactly what is happening here." So John Goodman does tell him. He says, there's these gigantic creatures. You saw it, actually, and so that's at this point. He tells what's happening. I missed a step here. I'm back up. So what happens is they take no less than like 10 helicopters off of these ships that have gone to Kong Skull Island. They fly in on these helicopters with a lot of ordnance and ammunition. And that's one thing that's also clear is John Goodman doesn't care if he shows the world King Kong or King Kong's corpse. Does not care, right? So at this point, they fly these helicopters onto Kong Skull Island, and that is the first contact with Kong. And it starts right away. It's probably about 20 minutes into the film. King Kong, actually, they don't really call him King Kong in the movie. They call him Kong, and they say he's king of this island, right? So Kong throws this tree right through one of the helicopters, and then what he does is he jumps up and he grabs different helicopters, and then he throws them into other helicopters. So in short order, Kong actually destroys all the helicopters that are there, and and knocks and kills easily 25% of the soldiers that are alive. The scout, which is Tom Hiddleston's character, the anti-war photographer, Brie Larson's character, and then they're all alive, as well as Samuel Jackson's military lead. He's still alive. John Goodman, the original witness for the monsters on the island, he's still alive. Okay, so you have all that going on, right? And at this point, everybody's on the island. The major action scene is over. Kong it was a really good, action scene. You see a lot of Kong, like just absolutely destroying all these helicopters that are in the sky. And then at that point, you get into this position where the movie switches into a mode where everybody now needs to get across the island to the north side of the island, where there'll be another team of helicopters that will come in and pick them up, right? And the idea there is they're going to be bringing out pictures or a corpse, or, that maybe they'll just cut off Kong's hand and stuff it into one of the helicopters. They want to get some kind of proof. That might be pictures, it might be pieces of Kong, whatever it is, right? So at this point, it becomes essentially like a run across the island movie where they all need to get across the island. So they begin to go across the island, and they encounter the people who actually live on the island, who they call the Eloi, all right? And so the Eloi are this native culture. They're a native tribe. They don't speak English, but the Eloi have a man among them called Marlowe. Marlowe is a man that has been on the island for 28 years, right? So the movie is starting in 1973, and so that means that he is actually coming from 1944, okay? Maybe 1945. So it would be 1945. So he, and at that point, he is a veteran of World War II, okay? And so Marlowe is on, and he's played by John C. Reilly. So Marlowe, the World War II veteran who's actually a survivor on Kong Island, he's in the mix as well. And there is an opening scene at the very, very beginning of the movie where this U.S. World War II soldier fights a U.S. Japanese soldier, and and that occurs as well. Also, just going to throw this out there. So one of the scientists, there's a scientist called Brooks, and Brooks is the scientist who knows about the hollow Earth theory. So Brooks, the scientist, he is also dealing with another scientist lady, and she is Chinese. Now, in the American version of this film, this Chinese scientist lady is very quiet. All right, doesn't say. You can count the number of lines she has on one hand. I'm betting that when they have this movie in China, she will have a lot of lines, probably 5 to 10 times more lines than she has in the American role, which I thought was interesting. I think that's a great way to make films more accessible to other countries. Very, very wise, right? So at this point, everybody starts going across the island, and they encounter all these monsters. They encounter these skull crawlers. Skull crawlers are essentially, they're like giant lizards lacking their back leg, and they come in sizes between 20 feet long and 300 feet long. And John C. Reilly explains that these big, huge lizard creatures, these skull crawlers, they are ravenous predators, and they will kill anything on the island that they can, right? Almost like similar to lions, and he explains that Kong actually keeps these things in check, right? So they're moving across the island, and now at this point, the entire team of the military leader, all of his men, the anti-war photographer, the scout, all these people are making their way across to the exit point, right? They have a lot of different combats, and then they come out on the other side. And when they come out on the other side, and so their idea is to come out on the other side. They do not come out on the other side. What happens is it becomes clear that Samuel L. Jackson's character, his name was Packard. So Samuel L. Jackson's character, the military leader, has decided that he will kill Kong. And there's very, very strong allusions to Samuel L. Jackson's military lead character being a lot like Captain Ahab in Moby Dick. He gets this, gigantic creature in his sights, and he decides he's going to kill this thing. Tom Hiddleston's character, the scout, and the anti-war character, Brie Larson's character, they decide to stop him from killing Kong, which they are successful in doing. And then at that point, they all head to the rally point to be able to leave the island. And they are able to successfully leave the island. And we know at that point that Brooks, the scientist, the Chinese lady scientist, Hiddleston's character, the scout, and the anti-war all get off the island. And also Marlowe is able to get off the island and then go see his wife and son. But that's it. Like, and one thing I thought was a little odd was everyone who had come from the Vietnam area, it looked like all of them died. Maybe one or two of them survived, but it wasn't clear at the end of the film. It's an excellent film. I highly suggest seeing it. I really enjoyed it. Highly suggest seeing Kong Skull Island. Take care.